Welcome to 13 Minutes of Gig News. In 13 minutes or less. We got a lot to cover, you guys, so let me see how much of it I can get in. Last week in the State of the Union address, Joe Biden, who vowed to be the most pro-union president the country has ever seen, that was one of his vows coming in, he took the opportunity to plug the Protecting the Right to Organize Act, the ProAct, which has it passed the House in 2021, but it got defeated. And it's kind of, I think I've talked about this before, they kind of dismantled the ProAct and tried to shove it through in pieces, kind of almost like trying to shove it through and then reassemble whatever pieces they had on the other side and see how much of it they got. Even that got battled down. Well, he's tripling down now on this. So just as a quick understanding for you guys. So if you live in one of the 27 right to work states, part of the ProAct would end the right to work states. That is the ProAct. It actually would supersede it. It would take over those states' right to have the right to work states. So what is his attempt? Look at guys, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. A lot of people have this same agenda, but his is very strong. And I've said before, Biden is a long time politician, and he has been, at least I can say this, he has stuck to his guns his whole career on this one. This is something he's always wanted to see, and now it's at an absolute over-the-top point. He wants to see every person be a W-2 employee. He doesn't want to see us having our own businesses. If you need to be a W-2 employee and you need to be in a union, it is what he wants. That's what the ProAct is. I'm bringing this up, by the way, because this coming Wednesday, February 22nd, do not miss a special that I have going with Karen Anderson and Kim Kavin. And that's all I'll say. Just join us for that. We're going to talk about a lot of this stuff. So under the ProAct, it would make classifying an independent contractor basically impossible. We've seen the complete and utter failure of AB5. Now remember, this is very important. Remember that AB5 happened and destroyed millions of lives in California, livelihoods and self-employed people way beyond the gig economy. And for many, many years, okay? Millions. And out of what AB5 destroyed, only 8.4% were gig workers. Now, gig workers got a carve out like some other people in that Prop 22. Okay, but that only represented that. What about the other 92%? Those were the traditional ICs that got the hammer too. Now, the ProAct is just a national version of AB5. And all we saw was destruction. AB5 was promised to create jobs. We will talk about that Wednesday. As far as I know, it still has not created none. Even the government jobs it created, they had to let go. So there's a lot more to that. We'll get into that on Wednesday because I want to move along here. So just to let you guys know that we're not out of the woods yet, Marty Walsh has officially left the DOL as of yesterday. He has signed a contract with the National Hockey League, and he will be the players' union representative, which leaves Julie Su in the position to take over the DOL Secretary position. Now, Julie Su, if you're not familiar, I'm sure that California, I do not need to remind you, yesterday, 7 congressional Republicans representing California signed a letter urging President Biden not to consider Julie Su, California's former labor secretary during the coronavirus, for Secretary of Labor in his administration, meaning not to fill Marty Walsh's position. The Congress members, some of the comments that were made were accused Su of overseeing one of the largest cases of unemployment insurance fraud during the pandemic. Now, yes, other states had it too, but nothing like this. Julie Sue was, there were unemployment claims that were false of upward of $32 billion. Julie Sue cost the state of California $32 billion. And later, in many times, has admitted, yes, we failed in the security protocols. That $32 billion was needed by many people and didn't ever get to the people who needed it. But yet all of the fraud went through and got through just fine. $32 billion. Okay? If this is who you want to lead the Biden administration, Department of Labor, and be the secretary, I have no idea why. Please put them in the comments. I would love to hear any positive story on Julie Sue. She is a train wreck. And she will do nothing but more problems. This is not just a one-side thing. There are people on the other side of the aisle. There are Democrats who are distancing themselves extremely from the ProAct. In fact, they were hoping it was already dead and buried. Now they are for some kind of fix, but not this. But here's the biggest kicker, you guys. So a lot of this we'll get into, but here's the thing. Here's why the gig economy is not out of the woods. Is the second Marty signed the contract that we all knew he would with the NHL, Uber, Lyft, Doordash, the Flex Association as they're known, instantly filed to have this put off until there is a presidential measure, a pass from Congress, and this can be looked into farther, because they knew right away Julie Sue could push this through very quickly. And so now we're in a very bad state because she has experience. She has experience at destroying livelihoods. I'm not even going to, again, I'm not sugarcoating it, you guys. I'm not going to play around. She is a train wreck. Look into her history and find anything positive. Put them in the show notes. I'd love to hear anything she ever did positive. It's amazing how these people that do horrible things get popped up the ladder. But yeah, so obviously it makes sense for the current administration to have Julie Sue because they are looking to really get that ball over the finish line and make everybody a W-2 employee, including the gig economy. So now the gig economy is filing motions. So you guys, is it just that all these gig companies are on the downward trend that they've always been on? When you look at the stocks and analyze them and stuff, I don't quite know that it is. I think that a lot of people are pulling out now. And yes, I'm going to pick on Instacart or Lyft. They're nosediving. I mean, which one will bankrupt quicker? I don't know. You know, they're both headed for it. I was hoping to get into some Instacart here, but we'll see if we have time. But bottom line is the Flex Association is very concerned. So Uber, Lyft, DoorDash, Instacart, all these companies are very concerned because they can't support, and they've outright said this. They said it yesterday in a Market Watch interview. They cannot support W-2 employment in the United States. It is unfeasible, and it should make sense to all of you. They can't make a profit right now as it is with independent contractors. And yes, are they taking too much? Yes, but they're a business. You know, here's my thing, as long as they're being transparent, we got nothing to complain about, right? Okay, well, they're getting to transparency. Will they get there? I don't know. Will there have to be some regulations to kick them? Probably a little bit. But do we need W-2 employment? No, because it will end these platforms here in the United States anyway. I know that like Uber's looking way more at the global outreach right now than the United States. This is kind of like we need to see what happens here. So look it, guys. I mean, a lot of people are like, it'll never happen. You're talking about the sky is falling, blah, blah, blah. It's right there. I mean, something's going to be done. In a lot of states, it will be done. In some states, it already is done. In some states, in the states that it is done, it's a little different. So some states might work better than others. But still, there needs to be a better solution. Making everybody W-2, making everybody join a union. And by the way, guys, I need to point this out. In 1983 is when the Labor and Statistics Bureau started comparing side by side union to non-union W-2 employees. Now, 1983, when they started it, was when it was at its high. 20.3% of W-2 employees in 1983 were in a union. Now, 10.1% of W-2 employees are in a union. So, I mean, yes, it's been a while, but it's down to half its size. So the union push is only coming from this current administration. Unions are dead. Let's face it, they're dead. People understand unions, and there is a place and a time for certain unions, of course. We've talked about this: police, fire, even the teachers union, which needs a huge revamp because they've been screwed by their own union leaders. But there are some times and places. However, the gig economy was never designed to be for unions. Now, does the gig economy have a lot of things to fix? 100% it does. 100%. But the gig economy globally is supposed to triple by 2025. And I've looked into those stats and they don't look exaggerated. We need to keep up with the world. We need to be in the gig economy. We need to have these type opportunities available to us. People are moving to a different style of living and working. The W-2 model is not far behind the union model of being dead. Let's face it, guys, the W-2 model is to squeeze out as much money out of you as they can for taxes. What is a union for? A union is to, after you've been squeezed for all the taxes, they come in and squeeze you for what you can't even afford to give. And the protections they grant really don't do much. I mean, are you going to be a rideshare driver and strike and you can't work until the strike is over? Is that what we're going for? Because, I mean, clearly, guys, do the math. The flexibility is gone under those situations. There's no question about it. I have a lot more to say. The one thing I do want to end in, can I even fit it in, is we need to talk about Instacart. Instacart has been kicked out by Heinen's, Midwest grocery retailer. They will be kicked out this Wednesday. They will no longer be allowed to operate in any of the stores they own in Ohio and Illinois. And in March, Ralph's in California will be kicking out Instacart. And Meijer is looking at kicking out Instacart. And Kroger is already kicking out Instacart in many states and is pushing to be national by August. Instacart free. So Instacart's trajectory and what they're worth, we'll talk about that on some other things going on this week. But you guys, join us Wednesday. We need to talk about what's going on with gig economy and staying independent. Okay? That's 13 minutes of news in just under 13 minutes.